All right, it is Friday, February 18th, and Calicoin just posted on the Guild Wars 2 forums 228 PvP balance and some future patch notes. So 228 is, of course, the day that End of Dragons is coming out. Apparently, on that exact same day, they are going to be releasing PvP patches. So I have skimmed this only. I have not read it in detail. Let's just jump into it. Hi everyone, in addition to bringing the new Elite specializations, the End of Dragons release will include a handful of PvP balance changes that we want to cover today. Now, to pause there really quick, on a Reddit post, Solaire, who works at ANET, recently said they were planning on tamping down, that was his words, not mine, Firebrand, Scourge, and Revenant to give breathing room to the new Elite specs. Now, I don't know if he meant in PvP or PvE, so I don't know if what he was talking about is what we're going to see in these notes, or if that's something completely different. Overview. Necromancer variants, Core Guard support, Tempest, Shadow Arts Thief, and Flamethrower Scrapper. So I don't see Firebrand in there, so I'm assuming these are not the changes that we saw mentioned on the Reddit post, which means that the tamping down thing for Renegade and Firebrand and Scourge might be in addition to this. All right, moving on. Necromancer, Unholy Martyr. Reduce the number of conditions removed when exiting Shroud from 3 to 2 in PvP only. Oh my gosh, when you're playing anything Condi, and I know this because I like playing Condi classes, which kind of bends me over in this case, it really sucks fighting most Necros, because right now they all take Unholy Martyr. It is a trait, I think it's in Death Magic. I might have that wrong though, I'm sure people will tell me if I'm wrong, they love to do that. But yeah, basically when they leave Shroud, it removes some conditions that were on them while they were in Shroud, and it gives them a bunch of life force, so they can get back into Shroud again more quickly. Vampiric. Reduce base life-stealing damage from 41 to 29 in PvP only. Reduce base life-stealing healing from 39 to 26 in PvP only. Minion life-stealing has been adjusted to match the Necromancer's life-stealing PvP only. Okay, so those are very, very small numbers. Those were basically constant tiny heals the Necro was getting if they were using blood magic to basically give them more sustain over time. As long as they kept attacking, they kept getting tiny heals just flooding in. Vampiric Presence, same thing, it's a blood magic. Reduce base life-stealing damage from 65 to 49 in PvP. Reduce base life-stealing healing from 32 to 28 in PvP. Reduce life-stealing bonus effectiveness while in Shroud from 100 to 50% in PvP. Oh, wait, hold on. So the numbers change was really small, but reduce the life-stealing bonus effectiveness while in Shroud from 100% bonus effectiveness to 50% bonus effectiveness. Still strong, not nearly as strong as it was. Lesser Enfeeble. So Lesser Enfeeble, I believe that is the trait that if you have it, when you go into Shroud, everyone right around you gets weakness and some other nasty stuff done to them. So in this case, it says reduce the weakness duration from 6 seconds to 3 in PvP only. Okay. Summon Fleshworm. Now, just so you know, anyone who's ever fought a Necromancer and been like, this guy is immortal, he just will not die, there's a strong chance, not a guaranteed chance, you might have been really bad that day, there's a strong chance he was using all the traits that we just went over. Okay, Unholy Martyr, Vampiric Presence, Lesser Enfeeble, those are very common in those tanky Necro builds. Summon Fleshworm. Increase the cooldown from 32 to 40 seconds in PvP only. This, of course, summons the Fleshworm type creature. For anyone who doesn't play Necro, the Necro can hit that button, like after they've summoned the Fleshworm, the button changes to a different thing called Necrotic Transversal. And when they hit the button again, it is a stun break, and it teleports them toward where the Fleshworm is as far as they can go. It can be a little buggy if there's a wall between you and the Fleshworm, but it becomes an escape mechanism. They can also like summon the Fleshworm on a high place and just immediately hit the button again just to sacrifice it and teleport up there. Lich Form. Reduce the amount of life force granted when exiting the transformation from 15% to 5%. Okay, so this makes it a teeny tiny percent harder for them to go from Lich Form directly into Lich. I would say that will have a minor impact, if anything. Deathly Claw's Lich form. Reduce the power coefficient from 2.34 to 1.64. Deathly Claws is the Lich form's, it's the one skill, it's the one they spam. There is a running joke that if you are in Lich form, the rotation for optimal damage is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and you just spam it. Now, my main complaint with Lich form is, let me give you an example. Let's say you're a ranger, you use Entangle. Entangle does a bleed. If you're condition damage ranger, the full Entangle, which no one ever gets hit but the full Entangle, would do about 10k bleeding damage. If you're power, it does about 50. That makes sense. It's an immobilize either way, but it scales with condition damage. The Lich, its base damage is so high that whether you're Condi or power, it is a viable killing tool. I really don't like that. I don't like that it doesn't matter if you're Condi or you're power, you can take Lich and spam the one key and kill people. Now that's just me. You know, most of the classes I currently play, you know, it's like these abilities are power, these abilities are Condi, and these are utility in the middle that don't do damage. And then you've got Lich, which just trucks no matter who's using it, and that seems wild to me. But, so they are reducing the power coefficient, so the amount of damage the one skill spam will do by a bit. Actually by about what is that, a third? I think that's about a third. That could be noticeable. If you projectile or reflect a Lich spammer, they can kill themselves though. Yes, they can do that, yeah. Now, if you're playing the Lich, the answer to that would be to do the Fear Wave and interrupt your Reflect, but it depends on the player.
A new arrival.
All right, condition-based core Necro is the most common variation, boasting a high play rate and win rate in both tournaments and ranked play. Reaper and Minion builds are a bit less common in tournament play, but are still extremely effective in the ranked environment in almost every rating bracket. A common component in all these builds is the Blood Magic trait line. The life siphoning traits in particular generate a ton of value over the course of an extended fight, contributing to both outgoing pressure and self-sustain. Unholy Martyr is getting a slight shave to its cleanse and reduces the amount of life force generation for Blood Magic builds, while in combination with the siphon adjustments and other defensive shaves should give more chances to pressure enemy Necromancers. In addition to the Blood Magic adjustments, we're making a few changes to reduce Necromancer to further reduce Necro survivability. Weakening Shroud will still provide a strong amount of weakness between its on-critical trigger and in Lesser Enfeeble, but the latter coming down to 3 seconds should provide more opportunities to go aggressive in the cases where it can't be avoided or cleansed. Fleshworm also gets a slight cooldown increase to bring it more in line with other Necro stun breaks. Finally, Deathly Claws is getting a reduction in damage. While good counterplay options exist, it can be more difficult to capitalize on these as a team in a less coordinated environment like Ranked. We feel that there's room to tune Deathly Claws in a way that Lich is still threatening elite skill, while also giving players a bit more time to react when the counterplay isn't immediate. Okay. So, yeah, like I said, while good counterplay options exist, that's just like what our friend in chat just said, you know, you can just throw up like a Reflect Wall if you've got that available to you, or block projectiles, and the damaging abilities of the Lich are mostly stopped. There's the Shackles and the Fear Wave, but the kill you in 1 second abilities are stopped. However, you know, if you're not expecting it, they can just pop you like a balloon. And honestly, also, I feel kind of like if the best thing to do with Lich is just spam the one key, then something's wrong there. Either the one's too strong, or the other skills aren't good enough. So, you know, it's kind of like the recent treatment that they gave Spectre. Everybody was only going into Spectre Shroud just to immediately leave it to trigger a trait, which healed people when they left Shroud. They were never using the Shroud skills. So they changed it. So I think this is a good move. We'll see if it was too much, not enough, or if it's just right. Honestly, the Lich one, they were heavy-handed with, and I understand why. Everything else was not too... Like, if you play Necro, please don't start, oh, my class is dead! Your class hasn't been dead after any nerf they've ever given it. This is a minor nerf across the board to the survivability things. I think that we should wait and see what this does, and don't panic. Okay, Core Guardian support. Signet of Mercy. For the non-Guardian players, this is the skill that revives somebody. They're downstate, the Guardian raises their weapon in the air, and they channel for a few seconds, and then the person who's downstate gets up. It has a decently long range, so it's just can you get that off? Like in competitive play, it's can you get that ability off before someone interrupts the Guardian or executes the downstate. And a really good Guardian might see someone's going down and start casting it before they even go down, just, you know, banking on it. So they're increasing the cooldown from 90 seconds to 135. Okay. So that's more, that's at least a 30% increase. No, is that a 50? That's a 50% increase in the cooldown of Signet of Mercy. Ooh, that's a little hefty, but that's just over 2 minutes. You'd still get to use it multiple times per game, but that is hefty. Core Guardian is undoubtedly the best support build in the current state of the game, and we see this in both its play rate and win rate compared to other options. We're going to be keeping a close eye on the general pace of the meta following the changes to Necro, but currently we see Core Guard as being fairly close to what we want out of a support build in terms of power level. There are things that can be shaved if we find a broader reduction to support builds is needed, but for now we want to improve diversity of the support role, buff Druid and PvP. By bringing other builds up to the level of Core Guardian. Hold on a sec. Yeah, Core Guard and Tempest are the only support builds on this list. For those of you who are new here, I was a Druid player for about 5 years. Or not 5 years, sorry, 5,000 hours. And very bitter, the Druids suck as support in PvP. They are usually like a 1v1 or annoying roots, but that's it. They can't heal. You can't have a Druid go in, like if you tell your PvP team, I'm gonna heal you guys, that people laugh at it. It's Tempest or Guardian or Firebrand, something like that. Not yet, 5,000 years, yeah. So let's see, improve the diversity of the support role by bringing other builds up to the level of the Core Guardian. For this update, we've started with Tempest, but for follow-up patch, we're also investigating some buffs to support Warrior. Clearly the next healer I had in mind. Additionally, we've started some investigation into what other specializations have the potential to fit into the support role. But for the short term, we're prioritizing Tempest and Warrior, as both of these have been the premier support builds in previous metas and feel the closest to competing with Guardian. That's an interesting design philosophy. So instead of going for the things that needed the attention the most, they're tackling the classes that have the closest chance of competing and vying for a spot with the guy who's normally at the top, currently at the top. I'm not saying I disagree with that. That's just interesting to me. Like there's healers that are just garbage tier in PvP, and instead of looking at them, they're like, we're gonna look at getting the second best up to best. That's an interesting way to do it. Excuse me, needed a quick drink. There's a link for the chat. Someone's asked. Okay. The one thing that we are touching in the support realm is the availability of resurrection utilities, namely Signet of Mercy and Glyph of Renewal. These skills are significantly more potent in slower metas where kills are less frequent, especially in the ranked environment where teams are less likely to coordinate cleaving or stomping while also interrupting the resurrection skill. Going forward, we'll constantly be evaluating the pace of fights and what the right availability is for these skills. For now, we believe the longer cooldown is warranted. Battle Standard is remaining slightly lower at 120 seconds when picked up as an elite skill. Oh wow, so Signet of Mercy will have a longer cooldown than Battle Standard. Can someone link the patch notes? I literally just did. Scroll up 2 lines. Yeah, hey, any of you on the chat, if you just want to copy paste that URL, just anytime someone asks for it, just throw it at them, I would appreciate it. Tempest. Elemental Shielding. Increase the protection duration from 2 seconds to 2.5 in PvP. Okay, half a second more. Reminder that you can't use concentration gear in PvP, so that's not going to have an effect here. Latent Stamina. Increase endurance gain from 10 to 15 in PvP. Elemental Bastion. Increase healing coefficient from 0.55 to 0.8. Okay, so big increase in the healing coefficient there. That's almost a 50% increase. Feel the burn, increased ammunition count from 1 to 2 in PvP. Oh, dude, I love ammo skills. Ammo skills are a lot of fun. Glyph of Renewal, increased cooldown from 90 seconds to 135. Okay, so Glyph of Renewal is getting the same treatment as Signet of Mercy. For this round of Tempest buffs, we primarily looked at the Earth variant. While the Fire variant was more commonly seen the last time the Tempest was getting regular play, we see Earth as the more well-rounded support build. Giving a bit more protection back to elemental shielding and bumping up the healing of elemental bastion, in addition to an additional use of Feel the Burn, should give the more shout-oriented Earth build more impact. Let's see. Hold on, looking in chat right now. Hero says it's the balanced approach. You do not pick the ones who are bad at something because they might be good at something else. You pick the ones who are closest to the best and boost them enough to get their less effort, more impact. Yeah, like I said, I'm not disagreeing with it. I just find it interesting. It's an interesting approach to me. It's not something I've seen very often. Ammo skills are basically stored charges, right? So it'll be like a skill that, you know what, I can actually use one real quick. So on an engineer, battering ram is an ammo skill. It's got a little 2 in the top right corner. You can see it right here. If I use it, it's recharging. Now, the additional charge, see, that's just the cooldown. I can use it again right now, but you see there's a white border going around the outside? That is the second charge of it. So I could do it again. All right, and you look, see, it's already halfway recharged because the second ammunition slot was recharging. So that's the strength of ammo skills. All right, so Thief. Hide in shadows, increase cooldown from 30 to 40 seconds of PvP only. Also, I want to remind you guys, I don't know how well it's going to go, but remember that Bladesworn Warrior, they have an ability called Reloading, and they reload all of their ammunition skills, which includes shouts. I did a meme about this where I was like, you know, feel better, rub some dirt in it, walk it off, reloading, feel better. Which means, I don't know for sure, but there's a possibility that the Bladesworn shout healing warrior might be extremely viable. So the same day that this comes out, you're gonna have the reloading screaming Bladesworn coming out too. Okay, Thief, Hide in Shadows. Increase cooldown from 30 to 40 seconds in PvP. Wait, isn't that? Hold on, I'm gonna make sure this far. Yeah, okay. Their heal? That's what I was checking. Their heal is getting a 40-second cooldown? I don't think is there any 40-second cooldown heals in the game? I can't immediately think of one. Like, for anyone who doesn't play Thief, this is the ability where they, like, dodge backward, they break out of all these conditions, they get regen, they get their heal, and they go invisible for 3 seconds. So sometimes it's used just for the stealth when they don't even need the heal, just for positioning and stuff like that. Okay. The Guardian's Signet heal. Yeah, but Signets have longer cooldowns because they have passive effects. Anyway, I'll continue. Blinding Powder, increase the cooldown from 40 to 50 seconds in PvP. Shadow's Rejuvenation, reduce the base heal from 219 to 158 in PvP. Alright, that's a small hit to their sustain. Smokescreen, reduce the field duration from 7 to 4. Okay. So, if you're wanting to stack stealth in that, you need to be a bit quicker about it. The Shadow Arts trait line is a common topic of discussion when it comes to Thief balance. We've been having some conversations internally about common feedback topics like Hidden Thief and Meld with Shadows, but those discussions are still ongoing, and for now we've bumped up the cooldown on some of the stealth-granting deception skills. Smokescreen is also getting a duration reduction rather than a cooldown increase, as 7 seconds is a bit longer than we'd like to see a 1-second pulse blinding field. Obviously, I don't main Thief. I don't hate this. I don't think that's too unfair, but I'm sure people will be like, "Oh, you just say that because you hate Thieves." So I'm not gonna say much more than that. I feel like that's fair. That's still 4 seconds of pulsing smoke field that you can use. And wait a minute, I'm sorry. Smoke screen. Is that a dark field or a smoke field? Hold on a sec. It's been a while since someone last forced me to do this. That is the smoke field. Okay, that is the one I was thinking of. I know they have another thing that's dark. So yeah, it blocks missiles, it blinds foes every second for what will be 4 seconds. It's unblockable, and they can use the smoke field to snack stealth with some certain other combo finishers if they choose to do so. It's also often used for things like getting a stomp off, because it blocks the projectiles and it blinds the guy on the ground who might try to hit you to interrupt your stomp. I mean, if the alternative was that they were going to increase the cooldown, I would have also, like, if I was a Thief player, I would have rather had them do this than increase the cooldown of it, but that's just my opinion on that. Okay. Flamethrower Scrapper. Before I even read this, I have not seen a lot of flamethrowers in PvP, because it's a one-trick pony, you know? It's kind of like a longbow ranger in World v. World. They're really good at one specific thing. The flamethrower guy runs at you. It's doing heavy, consistent, but short range damage. And if you get away from him, he has to chase you down on foot. It commonly comes paired with things like Blast Gyro and Shredder, where they run at you and they try to basically just, you know, they get you really close to you, and then it's just like you're fighting a blender for a few seconds. They try to end the fight very quickly. Now, with Flamethrower, with power builds, they basically spam the 1 key. You basically, I happen to be on my engineer right now. With Flamethrower power builds, it's basically just this. And because it's considered a cleaving melee attack, it will go through walls. So, like, if I'm in PvP and there's a guy on the other side of that wall, I will hit them with this, because it's not a projectile. That's also good at fighting against people blocking projectiles like Guardians, things like that. Now, the thing is, the 3 is a knockback, the 5 is a blind, but the 2 and the 4 are Condi, and the tool belt skill is Condi. Now, the tool belt skill can be used instantly without, you know, messing something else up. So even if you're a power one, you might use that just for the minor damage it provides, but the tool belt, the 2 and the 4 are really only worth pressing unless you need the field, a finisher, or if you're condition damage. Some of you may have seen some videos I've done where I messed around with Condi, Flamethrower Engineer. However, if you're Condi, the 1 is terrible. So Condi would make heavy use of the 2, the 4, and the tool belt skill, but almost never spam F1 unless, you know, they are blocking all projectiles and that's just all you've got left. Okay, so that's a quick rundown on Flamethrower Engie. All right, Flamethrower Scrapper. Flame Jet. Reduced the power coefficient per strike from 0.25 to 0.15 in PvP. Woo! Wow. So, Flame Jet is the 1. Flame Jet is the 1. So they took away 40%, almost, what is that? I think they took away 40% of the damage. That's hefty. So they, now, it does have a dot on the end of this, but because anyone looking at the tooltip's like, whoa, Muck, it says it does burning. It does 10 hits, then does 1 burning. It's 99% power damage. So, yeah. 40% reduction on that. My goodness, that's huge. Flame Blast, that is the number 2. That is this thing. It fires a ball. Everything in the area takes damage, but if the ball hits you directly, you get hit with bonus damage, which is a lot more. It's very nice with this. You can bop, bop, and then that's a might combo. But yeah, if you're Condi, it's decent because it's a very short cooldown, and it gets a burning on everything in the area. All right. So Flame Blast, they increased the burning duration from 4 to 6 seconds. So that is a very minor buff to Condi Flamethrower Engineer builds, which I think I'm the only guy on the planet that actually plays that. Finally, we have an adjustment to Flamethrower Scrapper. Now, this is something else I can offer a little bit of insight into. The Flamethrower Scrapper. Let's see, PvP. Am I still a Flamethrower build? Okay, so Scrapper has a few tricky things in here. The Flamethrower builds usually involve this trait called Juggernaut. Now, Juggernaut, every second you're holding a Flamethrower, watch my boons down here if you would, there's stability and might. Just every 3 seconds, you get stability and you get might. Which means if you never get interrupted twice in a row, you will never be CC'd. So Very nice to have. All Flamethrower builds use this. Now, if you're a scrapper, might, you gain might while you have stability. So by having this trait, we're suddenly going to see multiple passive mights appearing for no work. You've also got deal increased damage while you have stability, swiftness, or super speed. We always have stability now. And you've got gain stability while you have more than 10 stacks of might and your might is stronger. So these are very commonly used in open world lazy scrapper flamethrower builds. Great for just doing open world and chilling, you know, low effort, watch some Netflix on the other screen. Or this PvP build that they apparently hate right now. This is the reason why they mentioned Scrapper specifically. It has silly synergy with that. All right. This is another case where we're making a short-term change while discussions are happening around the underlying issue, which is Juggernaut's pulsing stability. This build isn't too widely played compared to some of the other meta builds. Okay, so that went in line with my experience. But it's one of the most effective in lower ranks. Oh, is that the problem? Are the Flamethrower Scrappers just dominating the Bronze and Silver League right now? Because I wouldn't know about that. And the gameplay of primarily sitting in a Flamethrower kit and auto-attacking isn't something we like to see. If the damage reduction doesn't appear to be impactful enough, we'll likely split the pulse interval of Juggernaut until we find a better game-wide solution. Split the pulse interval. That's all we have for today. As we briefly touched on, there are a few things that are already being looked into for post-EOD launch. We'll also be evaluating the state of the new Elite specs as we gather more real gameplay data. Signed, the systems team. Wow. All right. So, yeah. A lot of shaving down to the sustain of the tanky Necros. Tempest and Guardian are getting longer cooldown on their revive signets. Tempest is getting buffs to their healing. Thief is getting some nerfs to their invisibility skills. And Flamethrower is getting a hefty nerf to... Engineer is getting a hefty nerf to Power Flamethrower and a very small buff to Condi Flamethrower. And all this goes live the same time that EOD comes out. Very interesting stuff. Okay. I guess I will leave it at that. I've said my thoughts on each of these notes individually. And for the YouTube crowd watching this later, if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns, anything that I missed, please put them in the comments down below so that people, we can spread the good word.